So ladies and gentlemen, currently the role of engineers is becoming increasingly important, especially in decision-making activity. To show the role of engineering techniques and introduce the dynamic spatial CGE model in disaster prevention policy decision-making in Japan, here to share, please welcome Professor Dr. Engineer Atsushi Koike.
Hello, good morning. I would like to say thank you for the organizer of this conference. I'm very happy to have a chance to talk something here. I'm Atsushi Koike from Kobe University. Now I'm a dean of the engineering department. So today I would like to talk about the Japanese situation of engineering role is a little bit changed. So let me see, I try to use some slide. Today's title is the role of engineer in policy decision-making stage, policy decision-making. Subtitle is quantitative evaluation in policy making, dynamic SCG model for disaster management. I'm Atsushi Koike. Anyway, the role of engineers is a little bit changing now. So old style engineer is like this slide. The first, we have something like a national plan or national economic plan or national something like a manufacturing plan. And engineer affected from such a kind of plan. Engineering activity is dominated by the plan. That is this is a very old style of engineering. But nowadays, especially our country, something like engineering technology highly affected to the national plan, national economic plan, and in my field, national something like spatial wide planning. So the keyword of this kind of things is something like IoT, DX, and big data, and evidence-based policy making. This is today's topics. So our activity is expanding not only the field of manufacturing, but also some kind of the something like policy decision-making stage. So today, I just introduce a Japanese situation of this kind of things. So today's topics is background is first, evidence-based policy making. So what is the policy making is quite difficult to understand. So of course, you know, the politician and governor decide the policy making. However, these people is not have a clear evidence, especially numerical evidence is quite difficult to understand for such a kind of people. So nowadays, evidence-based policy making is becoming more and more important in policy decision-making stage. So politicians now highly to care the data and the evidence and numerical decision methodology and such a kind of things. This kind of situation, infrastructure planner like a civil engineering field is well known. For example, cost-benefit analysis is one of the well-known methods in infrastructure planning. What is a cost-benefit analysis is quite difficult to explain. However, something like road and rail and such a kind of infrastructure project. The first stage we decide to carry out or not. We calculate the cost and the benefit from the project. And then we finally decide that is a good project or not project. So such a kind of methodology, so-called cost-benefit analysis. So now in our country, disaster prevention policy are no exception. Of course, you know, Japan have a lot catastrophic disaster was highly happened. So maybe we have a lot of future unknown disaster potentially happened disaster we have. So disaster prevention is one of the most important investment policy. However, this kind of things is also politicians need evidence. So evidence-based policy making is getting important. Disaster prevention policy are also no exception. We should do some kind of evidence to make. That is our task. Today, my presentation is about this kind of point, and also how engineer role in this kind of things. This slide is background second, more methodological issue. The economic damage of disaster depends on the economic recovery curve. Of course, you know, big earthquake and the big tsunami affect to the economy, and the economic damage is huge. However, economic recovery, if we can easily or rapidly economic recover, not so serious. However, slowly, this kind of economic recovery is more slowly. We have a big damage for the national economy. So to predict the damage of unknown disaster, it is necessary to evaluate this recovery curve. We can try to estimate or evaluate such a kind of recovery curve. Is one of the most important tasks for us. So dynamic spatial computable general equilibrium model is one of the way to solve this kind of issue. So today, the first I focused on this model, and we try to calculate the recovery curve of unknown disaster, and then this kind of numerical simulation, we can find some policy or some recommendation to the policy. Is a final my conclusion is such a kind of things. Okay, of course, you know, almost 11 years ago, Japan have a big earthquake. This one, the 2011 Great East Japan earthquake was happened this area. So you know the very shocking video or broadcasting of tsunami in this area. Huge amount of economic damage, not only economic damage, but also human resource, a lot of deaths from this kind of earthquake. From this kind of earthquake experience, our country decided to more and more invest such a kind of prevention, disaster prevention planning. But still, we have a big debate. Investment prevention, disaster prevention investment is important or not. This is because next coming disaster is big or not big. Still, we have a big debate, such a kind of things. So we have now two potentially big damage will happen. First one is a Nankai trough earthquake will be happen this area. Same mechanism of this area. So you know this area have a lot of city locating. So Osaka and Nagoya is locating here. And also we have another potentially big earthquake will happen in Tokyo area. So we call Tokyo inland earthquake. Also will happen. So maybe we discuss how much invest for this prevention plan is a big political issue. So we have some approach for these issues. Replicate the recovery curve of the Great East Japan earthquake with my model. So the first step of for this issue, the first we replicate the same situation of the Japan Great East Japan earthquake, and then predicting recovery curve for Nankai trough and Tokyo inland earthquake. This two big earthquake will happen near future. Then consider not only disaster prevention policy, but methodological issue. This is today we don't have discuss of this point, but we slightly show you some result of our models. The first process is replicate the last earthquake. This result is from our paper. You can access from this barcode. So we make a very complex model and finally replicate the situation. You can show. I can show you the result. This blue line is real data from the last earthquake, and we can replicate. We make a model and replicate the situation, and finally we can find the first economic damage, and then recovery curve. This one is a Tohoku area. We can almost perfectly replicate it, and the Kanto area is, of course, you know, the Kanto is including Tokyo area is also can replicate it. So then, finally, we can success to the replicate last earthquake. Then predicting recovery curve for Nankai trough and Tokyo inland earthquake. This two earthquake will be happened near future. So then we try this model, apply this model to the unknown future disasters. Then finally we can find the Nankai trough earthquake situation and Tokyo inland earthquake situation. The most serious case is this graph. Simulation occurrence, Nankai trough and Tokyo inland earthquake. This simulation is two earthquakes will happen simultaneously. So I just show you the result. This green line is GDP growth situation from now to the 20 years. This axis, the number of this axis is monthly. So then 20 years. And this blue line is without earthquake. And this one is Tokyo, no, Japan. And this one is Tokyo. So the first we can check the Tokyo situation. The blue line is without earthquake, no earthquake scenario. And red one is earthquake will happen this time. So maybe you can find the number. This one is 8,000. And the first month, Tokyo, the economic damage almost 4,000. So that means 50% of economic activity was lost from the earthquake. And then getting recovery. And after the 20 years, so, but still remains economic damage, almost 5.2% of economic damage in Tokyo area. In case of entire Japan, so this is also the first month affect almost 40% of economic loss in entire Japan. And then recovered for 20 years, still remain 5%. Such a big earthquake will happen. Economic damage is so huge, and recovery curve is not so smoothly. This is because these two earthquakes affect to the economic activity entire Japan. So recovery process needs something like infrastructure or manufacturing goods. But the damage affected to the factory, so not so easy to get some recovery resource. So recovery process is quite slow. This slow recovery make a big economic loss. Almost a GDP loss for 20 years is about 12% of GDP. That is a quite serious issue, a serious damage for Japan. So we try to conclude the first step. The first national level of disaster is caused by the depletion of domestic resource and funds that make a slow recovery process. Traditional theoretical models are essentially to consider resource constraints. So this kind of recovery process can depict from the very classical old style model is possible. And also, of course, you know, this kind of economic simulation only can carry out by the engineering technology. And then we can eliminate the concentration of people and economic activity in Tokyo is important for damage mitigation. The first we explain something like a prevention policy is you can image some kind of more strong infrastructure and more strong building or more strong something. But this is not enough for the prevention, such a big earthquake. So one of the policy recommendation is eliminating the people and economic activity in Tokyo. It's most important point from the engineering evidence. So back to the first slide. The role of engineers is changing. Now engineering technology and application is affected to the national planning. So through the IoT, DX, big data, and evidence-based policy making. So maybe our field is getting expanding. So this conference is also, I hope this kind of conference is make a good policy and also, of course, good people will make a happiness or something. This is my keynote speech. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof, for the sharings.